Hello, dear friends. Hardly anyone smiles when you look at the faces of people walking down the street. Opinion piece, perplexity, unsettling world, minimal wisdom, general confusion, times of perplexity, information overload, anxiety and paralysis, amazement and confusion. Has the reset button been pressed? Strangeness and accelerated change. And definition about the meaning of life. Let's start. Contemporary society is characterized by a state of generalized perplexity, which reflects the uncertainty and complexity of our time. Human beings live with minimal wisdom and cannot see the essence of things, says Master Li Hongzhi. We live in a time of rapid and unpredictable transformation, which generates an uncertain and difficult to predict future. This state of perplexity is a response to a world dominated by complexity and uncertainty, where certainties and points of reference seem to dissolve, creating a terrain in which people struggle to find stability and understanding. Perplexity means irresolution, confusion, or doubt about what should be done about something. This causes bewilderment, astonishment, stupefaction, strangeness, surprise, confusion, disorientation, indecision, irresolution, hesitation, stupor, amazement, or admiration in the best case. Void. The loss of questioning of traditional religious or community values in many societies has left a void that has not always been effectively filled. In its place, a pluralism has emerged which, although valuable in many ways, often adds a sense of fragmentation and uncertainty about the purpose and meaning of life. Unlike previous societies, where living conditions were more stable, although often precarious, today we face a very wide and changing horizon of possibilities. The society of perplexity reflects a historical moment of great uncertainty and complexity, which requires new tools to navigate the present and build the future. Confusion. Perplexity is related to an emotional dimension. It is not just the lack of knowledge, but the inability to manage our emotions and react appropriately to new situations. Access to a large amount of information does not always translate into greater understanding. On the contrary, it can generate confusion and difficulty in making decisions. Perplexity can generate anxiety when we are constantly faced with situations for which we are not prepared. This can lead to a feeling of paralysis or inability to act. Social perplexity poses challenges for democratic systems, which must adapt to a context of greater complexity and manage collective emotions. Eliminating your karma and returning to heaven is your true purpose in coming to this world, says Master Li Hongzhi. Everyone made an oath to the Creator when he or she was reincarnated in this world. Of course, it is painful to pay for the karma of sins. Karma causes people to fight, and there are wars, illnesses, hard work, hunger, and poverty, which cause suffering. Of course, there are big and small karmas. People who safeguard goodness in perplexity will create less karma and suffer less. Events. According to Benjamin Fulford, world events on a biblical scale continue as the mob-controlled power structure implodes. The state of Israel has been decapitated. The Catholic Church is bankrupt, and a full-scale civil conflict has begun in America. The Iranian missile attack on Israel on October 1st was far more devastating than reported by Western media. MI6 sources report that in response to the devastation and threats to evaporate Israel, high-level power brokers are trying to negotiate replacing the State of Israel with the new God-affiliated State of Judea. This would include both native Jews and immigrants. This new state will be allowed to rebuild the temple in its original location, which is nowhere near the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That qualifies as news of a biblical scale. Fulford adds that the Catholic Church is bankrupt and about to be dissolved. Several sources in the intelligence agencies confirmed that they own the Bank of America, which in turn owns the American corporation. To hide the fact that they are bankrupt, the bank appears to have borrowed funds from its depositors to create the appearance that it was solvent at the end of the fiscal year on September 30th. This was reported in the news when the Bank of America experienced outages across the country, leaving customers with zero balances in their accounts and only their visible debts. Here is what an employee of a Polish Christian intelligence agency said about the Catholic Church, in quotes. Church bells call people to kneel like slaves instead of getting up from their knees and charging money for it. There used to be bells in church towers when they changed them to crosses, and this is how they block the flow of energy. The church is suffering from a sharp drop in donations from Africa and South America, where the vast majority of Catholics reside. This is because true Christians are disgusted with its recent pronouncements and all the financial, sexual, etc. scandals. The Church cannot pay the lawsuits filed by its numerous victims. Maybe it's time to liquidate its real estate holdings to compensate for all the damages. Opinions. Marshall McLuhan wanted that the Third World Party will be a guerrilla information struggle, with no division between civilian and military participation. Brandon Smith said that war is also being waged on the world economic stage using sanctions, inflation, and the marginalization of the dollar as the world's reserve. Elon Musk wants that the other side wants to take away our freedom of speech. Donald Trump said that the whole world is laughing at us. In quotes. Trump says that the bad guys will drop all kinds of bombs before the election. They are not physical bombs. They are October surprises to try to cheat in the election. White and red hats unite to fight blockade of emergency aid in North Carolina, according to Michael Baxter. Navy SEALs rescue kidnapped children from a shipping container in Miami, according to Michael Baxter. Scientists backtrack on African origin theory. DNA evidence disproves the theory of human evolution originating in Africa. According to Poet Dog, whenever the towers and citadels of evil begin to disintegrate, a lot of hostile barking and threatening gestures can be heard. This behavior is similar to what happens when you corner a rat. Professor Arthur Brooks looks at Schopenhauer and his way of understanding music to facilitate protocol that make us feel better every day. Schopenhauer granted transcendental power to music as an oracle that could reveal the true essence of the human being. The US Space Force, SpaceX, and the Galactic Federation have released the following statement in quotes: "To the citizens of the US and surrounding continents, what you are about to learn will not only shock you, but will forever change your life as you know it. Please don't panic. The Davos Forum wants your country to stop you from growing food on your own consumption. It demands that governments ban the general public from growing their own food at home to comply with the unelected World Organization's net zero agenda, banning meat and dairy products by 2030. Ismael Perez thinks that the world is on edge. He says that the source responsible for setting devastating storms would not be the cabal, but the old artificial intelligence. In quotes, the world seems to be on the brink of chaos, with geopolitical tensions foreshadowing the threat of a war, while natural disasters are shaking the planet like never before. Experts say that electric vehicles can be used as a weapon, since they are connected to the internet and have millions of lines of code, and hackers can access them. The market is moving towards greater volatility. It is very easy to go from a central bank currency to an alternative currency. Economy. Costco gold bars fly off shelves as prices break records. The BRICS financial bloc will hold its final meeting on October 11th. According to historian Adam Tooth, the old economic policy is dying as the paradigm of globalization crumbles and industrial and geopolitical rivalry with countries such as China grows. China. Metals plummet as China fails to implement new stimulus measures. World Bank wants China growth to slow new year despite temporary boost from stimulus. China announces more support for economy but slows down major spending package. China asks US not to interfere with its right to develop ties with Hungary. China imposes provisional tariffs to European cognac or brandy after European Union approves tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Europe. European stock markets open with a 1% drop pending the Middle East. The Ukrainian conflict could end in 15 days without Western support, says Borrell. The EU court will examine the case on possible violations committed by EC chief Ursula von der Leyen when purchasing the mandatory medication, Sky News reported. France's national debt reaches 113% of 2024, after falling over the past 3 years. Political turmoil in France scares away fixed income investors. Drug trafficking violence in Marseille sparks outrage in France. Every year, 300 newborn babies are abandoned in Hungarian hospitals. The UK suffers a flight of rich people to avoid the expected increase in taxes. The UK says that British sovereignty of the Falklands and Gibraltar is not negotiable. SpaceX launches its European mission to Hera to study a stray asteroid. A 16th century Portuguese shipwreck loaded with gold is discovered in the African desert. EU Court of Justice rules in favor of vegan labeling. In quotes, a member state cannot prevent producers of plant-based foods from complying with the obligation to indicate the name of such foods, it argues. EU in no hurry to abandon Russian oil products. Russia increases its gas shipments to Europe, surpassing the US as the energy crisis deepens. Russia didn't sign the Pact on the Future at the UN General Assembly. Middle East. An expert says that diplomacy has failed in Israel's war against Hamas. 53% of Israelis support ending the war in Gaza, according to a survey. Latin American members, Hamas hostages 1 year after the attack and supports peace in Gaza. Spain. Rain and storms put 10 communities on alert. 10 regions. The Bank of Spain is preparing to supervise artificial intelligence in banking. Olive oil production will rise by 48% this campaign. The Supreme Court declares the regional tax on fuels illegal. European justice refuses to compensate those affected by Banco Popular. Sheraton opens its first hotel in Madrid. Blackstone enters the bidding for the largest online university in Spain in La Rioja. Madrid is the most competitive region in terms of taxes, while Catalonia is last. Andalusia has managed to rise to the top position in 5 years. Extremadura has claimed 8 positions in 1 year. Catalonia is the community with the most regional taxes. The price of rent in Spain increases by 9.8% year-on-year in August and reaches an all-time high. The Supreme Court allows communities of owners to veto tourist apartments. The New York Times sees the price of housing as an opportunity in Spain. Extremadura and Castilla-La Mancha have very competitive prices compared to the crazy prices of Manhattan. The newspaper also points to countries such as Greece and Portugal. More and more Americans are choosing to come and live in Spain. The Spanish coast has become one of the favorite destinations for their retirement. French, English, Germans, and Americans have been coming to Spain for years to enjoy pensions that here have greater purchasing power. Now, depopulated Spain and other regions could also become a new target for the Americans. Spain is presented as an ideal option for those looking to maximize their investment and improve their quality of life. USA. Increase in earthquakes on Washington's largest volcano, Mount Adams. A strange Stonehenge discovered in Lake Michigan that is 5,000 years older. US-Russian work at International Space Station is a phenomenal example of bilateral cooperation. NASA chief says, Milton could be West hurricane for Tampa Bay in 100 years. Hurricane Milton is moving toward Florida with 155 miles per hour winds. Milton, the strongest storm on the planet this year. The hurricane weakened to Category 4, but it's expected to regain Category 5 strength on Tuesday. Today, Milton is now Category 5 hurricane with winds of 290 kilometers per hour and will hit Florida as a Category 3. Florida governor declares a state of emergency in 35 counties. Americas. Mexico warns of possible impact of Hurricane Milton on the Yucatan Peninsula. Housing rents skyrocket in Mexico City according to a study. Mexico faces a wave of enormous violence. The only answer is the force of the state. The parallel dollar in Argentina reaches its lowest level in 5 months. The most important psychiatric hospital in Buenos Aires closes. Haiti reports that brutal scenes are recorded in the deportation of Haitians by the Dominican Republic. Cuba officially requests its entry into the BRICS as a partner country. Edmundo González affirms that he will go to Venezuela on January 10th to take office as president. Italy and Argentina condemn the repression and violation of human rights in Venezuela. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.